Welcome back everyone to the Crypto Rain channel. I'm your host Jay Murph. Let's be very real today if that's okay with you. And I'm going to talk about just the overall market. I want to talk about 2021. This is a year I have been waiting for since about 2018 when I really started to understand the cyclical nature of the Bitcoin bull run and how it affects altcoins as well. So let's get this party started. John McAfee says he is eating his own. Alright, I hope you like that intro. I'm working on the channel, continuing to grow it. I want to thank each and every one of you who has subscribed to make this possible. I wanted to call this, the Crypto Rain channel, but also my team and those who support me. I appreciate every one of you. Fair to say we're the rainmakers, not just me, but each of you. I don't know everything, and some of you in your comments, I really appreciate your great feedback and insight because I'm just an investor myself. I have been real estate investing for 20 years. I've only been crypto investing for 4, so I don't know everything. I still make mistakes. I even get some data. I try to be very accurate because accuracy is highly important to me just as an analytical personality. But I can't know everything. Now, starting this channel has grown me a lot. Part of the reason I grew this channel was, there's a number of reasons, but one of the smaller reasons was I knew it would help attract very smart people around me so that together we would learn and grow together. And so that's what I like about Rainmakers. This is a channel that I'm putting a lot of effort into, but I appreciate every one of you that gives me good insight in the comments, especially when there's a project that you really, really love. Not that you just like, but you're really excited about it. I want to know 3 things from you. I want to know what the ticker symbol is. I want to know what you like about it. If you don't tell me what you like about it, I probably won't even put my eyes on it. And then what the current market cap is. So those 3 things, and I promise I will at least take a look at it. Now, if I really like it, I'll review it. But a few of you have made me aware of some projects that I would have missed myself. You see, I'm just one person. But together, we're an army. And I love that idea. And so probably at some point, I'll set up either a Discord server or a Telegram server. It'll make sense. As you can see, I'm putting more effort in this channel because of your huge amount of support. I've stopped making real estate videos and focus my effort that I have with my time on the YouTube channels, on this YouTube channel, because all of you have been so supportive. Now, I realized, or Angel, my friend, and some of you have caught his technical analysis, and he's exceptionally good at this. He brought crypto to my attention in 2017. Now, unfortunately, I was brand new about crypto, but when my mind started to wrap around that it was more than just Bitcoin and that there were these altcoins that would change the way the world functions, got very excited about it, way over exuberant, had no idea what I was doing, and I threw money at a lot of things that actually did very well, most of them. However, I didn't know anything about the Bitcoin cycles, and so I held and I held and I held and I held, and I watched from the top of what those coins went to. Many of them retraced 99.5%, which was extremely frustrating. It's not easy on the marriage. I have a very supportive wife. She is fantastic, but come on. You can only ask so much of your spouse. And so, yeah, she was bummed, and I was more bummed. So I learned some very hard lessons. Though I had learned about these cycles going into 2018, and so I really dug into trying to understand the cycle better and realized that then, when there's blood on the streets, even though so much of it was my blood, I kept working hard and putting every extra cent I could into crypto, foregoing going out to eat, and all these things, just throwing that money into crypto and different projects that I believed in. And it was frustrating because in 2018, it was a little bit early to be buying. And most of the things I was buying, even in late 2018, still dropped in 2019 and were worth maybe a third of what they had been, what I paid for them in the end of 2018. Oh well, some very hard lessons. However, now most of those are recovered to at least what I bought them at, if not much more. And 2019, just a lot of smart buys. And so I really learned firsthand about the cycles behind Bitcoin. Unfortunately, because so much of my own blood was on the street. So I have pulled up here on Tradingview Cardano. Now, I did a video earlier today, and I thank all you for your support in watching that video. And I went over my price predictions for Cardano. Now, a lot of people think I'm overly optimistic on these price predictions and it's crazy and oh, blah, 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 blah. See, I was here during all of this. I know what this looks like. In fact, better chart is the Bitcoin, not Bitcoin dominance. But I know what that looks like, and it's crazy. At this point, it was hard to even get a login on the exchanges because there were so many people coming in. So if you haven't already got your logins for the different exchanges, very beneficial because there might be a token that you want that you can only get on a certain exchange. I have logins to a lot of like referral links down below to a lot of the best ones. The Binance one will even give you 10% back on your own trades. That's the highest amount it would let me set up for you. So if you use that link to create a Binance login, that'll be beneficial to you. And most of the major exchanges I have on there. Because what happens when it goes to complete fear of missing out during this phase and it goes parabolic, so many people are flooding into everything that literally the exchanges couldn't handle the volume of applications, and some people had to wait 2 months in order to buy, and they watched Bitcoin go from $6,000 all the way to $15,000 before they finally got their login, bought in at $15,000 only to get absolutely wrecked. Now, if they'd been able to buy right away at $6,000, wouldn't have wrecked them near as bad, right? So it did end up going even below that much later on, but they would have been positioned much better. So we're right here in this cycle, which is equivalent somewhere around here, right? We haven't hit the mass exuberance. If you look, we're halfway between this bottom trend line and this top trend line, and I don't expect we're going to break through this. We could if we have a massive super cycle, but it's not likely. And so we're halfway there, and you see where this, depending on how long it takes for us to get over there. Now, we've been going at a very steep incline. What's likely to happen is a little bit of a cooling off period because I think we're going to be likely to hit the top somewhere between September to December, right? And so if it's in December and it still respects this trend line, it can go higher than if it's in, say, September. So we'll see. If you want to be able to look at this yourself, what you do, if you watch my video on ADA, I showed you how to pull up Tradingview. Let's just go through that again. Tradingview.com. You can have a free account. In fact, this is a free account. I paid for it in the past, and it was okay. The paid for saved me a little bit of time. I didn't keep paying for it, though. So say I want to look at, now if I want to look at Bitcoin with a lot of history, I go to Brave New Coin Liquid Index for Bitcoin. Then you've still got one more click to do. You got to click on the full featured chart, and then you're going to have some drawing tools available to you. It's going to hit you by this, and as well as some ads sometimes. That's fine. It just is what it is. So this will get you the ability to look at historically how it's done. And then if you drag on this right side, it will help bring that into perspective. And then you can change the timeline. That's on the daily. You can still look at the weekly. And then just scroll in and just kind of get it adjusted to where you look at it. Also be careful if you're on logarithmic, which we are in this case on logarithmic scale. So that means even though this is just at $1.80, the higher you get, the more logarithmic it is. But it's still, you know, sometimes it's really helpful to look at Bitcoin particularly in a logarithmic scale. All right, so we've had some pretty steep momentum in so many things. So unless we're going to break this trend line, really we all want it to cool off for a little while so that we can hit a higher peak price this year. But let's say that peak price is right near the beginning of October. It might be 400,390 and still be respecting this trend line. Now, as you can see in the last cycle, at least the way I have the trend line drawn, it didn't even quite hit the top. So maybe I either drew it wrong. I mean, I could bring this down. And there we can see in September, it could be 300, 350. So a lot of the stuff is just trying to get your best guess. So none of this stuff is completely accurate. All it is an indicator that helps you improve your chances on your guesses. Does that make sense? All right. So where do I think things are going to go? See, that's Bitcoin. If I were to guess on Bitcoin, it hits somewhere between 200 to 400,000 is my best guess. Unless we have a super cycle, and we may, only because so many of the governments around the world are printing their dollars like crazy. in trying to keep their economies afloat. At some point, if people lose trust in their currency, they might turn to something like Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies as more stable than the government-funded dollars. They've been saying that would happen since Satoshi created Bitcoin. It still hasn't. Will it happen this cycle? I simply don't know. Let's go back to Cardano. And I just want to look at the daily chart. Now, when you feel this feeling of pure euphoria, what usually happens after is a correction. Now, we probably have some big news coming, and that big news may look like, I know there's the Mary hard fork. I think even with the Mary hard fork, it would tend to bounce down from here, just because they say buy the hype and sell the news. What that means when they say it is when there's a lot of hype and excitement about something that's going to hit, when it actually does hit, the price actually falls, because it's all the hype that gets people to buy, and when the date happens, the smarter investors then dump. And so those that were all excited about it, thinking that that would take it even further, it usually actually does the opposite. However, Coinbase is just a hope, the Coinbase listing, because it will make it one step easier for many people. There's a lot of people who only buy tokens from Coinbase, especially those on the US, and many of them have large holdings, but they just feel secure with Coinbase, so they don't use any other wallet, so they only buy what's available to them on Coinbase, and all of a sudden they will be able to buy Cardano, so that will increase the buyer pool for Cardano, which would likely create a big positive spike for Cardano. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen, but none of us know the timing on that. So I'm just preparing you in case it does trade down for a while, that it's no big deal. In fact, you want to see corrections. And let me go back to this major correction here. So do you remember this actually bottomed out on Black Tuesday in March, along with everything else in the cryptocurrency space? Now I call it Black Tuesday because it was a Tuesday, and the stock market crashed tremendously, and that's when basically the U.S. government and others realized how severe coronavirus was going to affect not only the U.S. but other countries, and particularly how it was going to affect the economies. And so there was a huge sell-off in the stock market, which bled over into cryptocurrency. What was interesting, I didn't expect so many institutional investors to dump. I didn't think it would affect us at all. Well, I thought it would affect us much less because I thought Bitcoin would decouple from, say, the stock market. What I learned is that some of the institutional buyers are some of your weakest hands. And the reason has to do with how their books are balanced. So when they're losing money, they sometimes sell their winners to float their losers. And that's exactly what happened that day. And it went way down here, bringing ADA to a really attractive buy. All right, well, let's take a look at what then happened after that. And so I'm not going to draw it all the way down at the wick, but I want to show you how this pans out on these runs. And don't you know, see, they call this sideways trading, even though it didn't trade just sideways. It actually traded down and then came up and retested the same highs it hit before and then broke above them, right? So if I were to pull this farther out, and so when you see these massive runs, just know at some point this is going to happen, and it's okay. And so I know if you're new, it gets really exciting, and oh my gosh, it's going up, and then when it starts going down, what a lot of people do is they panic sell, and that's exactly the wrong thing to be doing, because what will often happen is it will stop, and then it will go up, and before you realize it, it's more expensive than what you had panic sold at, and then you get in a worse position. So one of my good friends from high school, this happened to him with Bitcoin, and then he ended up having to rebuy back at, I think, twice the price he had sold at, and it was just new, and I explained to him, hey, this is just the learning curve. These are just the lessons you make when you're new. And so, I did it. Everyone has done it. Though I'm recording this video for you to hopefully prevent you from doing this. Now, do sometimes things retrace and go to zero? Yes, they do. And that's why I mostly, except for a small percentage of my portfolio on the high-risk stuff, I keep a lot of it in projects that I think will be around at least for the coming 2 years, if not the coming 4 to 6 years. They're just a lot less likely to go to zero. So, even on a good project, though, and you see these run-ups like this, you'll then see, in this case, the retracement to the 61.8 Fibonacci retracement level. So let me delete this and get this out of the way, because I want to go over to here and let's just draw it fresh. Here we go. We're going to choose the Fibonacci retracement. So just realize that even though it's run all the way up to here, it could come back all the way to 59 cents, and that would just be at the 61.8 Fibonacci retracement. It could come back to 35 cents. And do you know what I would be doing if ADA came back to the 35 cents? Well, what I will be doing is I will be selling some of my Bitcoin holdings and rolling them into here. Now, there is even a small chance it happens every once in a great while. Things don't go well and whatever. So sometimes it even will wick down and hit like the 88.6 line. I don't expect that, especially being in a bull run. And I would evaluate what kind of news it was. I mean, sometimes there's this news that you think a project's going to disappear. Like, oh my gosh, US dollar Tether, they're getting sued and they're going to disappear. And yet they don't. In fact, they just settled with the state of New York, and that's all done, and that concern is gone. And so, but people get concerned about that kind of thing, and like, oh, they're just sure it's going to zero. And sometimes that leads to some risky buys, but some phenomenal returns. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this come back to the 61.8, especially after such a strong run. And if it does, just know that that's normal. You don't need to panic sell or anything. It's just part of the cycle. So I want to share with you some of how I'm looking at this, making some plans for this year. And what I realized is the first cycle that you participate in this, you're probably going to make some mistakes. I would strongly suggest that you don't make the mistakes of trying to trade on leverage if you're new at all, unless you're a severely experienced investor. In fact, I don't have a link to Bybit or Femex where you can do leverage trades at all. Binance will let you, but I strongly recommend against it because it's the greatest way to lose money in the middle of a bull market when you don't know what you're doing, and because there are these retracements. And when you're new, especially when you get this euphoric feeling, is like, man, if I'd been trading on leverage, then I would have made so much. And so what happens is you end up putting in on a leverage trade right at the wrong point, and you end up then getting liquidated, which means you lose all the capital that you had invested in that trade. And bam, it evaporated like that. In the middle of a bull run, you just lost massive amounts of money. And so I strongly suggest that you learn about trading, but that you don't do any kind of leverage trading unless you're an expert. And how you get to become an expert is just actually first experiencing, watching the charts and learning and trying to trade on just the spot market, meaning just regular buys and sells where you're not buying on leverage at all. Secondly, learning to observe the charts. Courses and training will go a long way for that. I talked to Angel, and he is working on a course for, I'm not sure exactly the levels he's going to break it up, and I asked him if he would do just a free sampler, like something to give you, and he said he would probably be able to do that. He's been really busy lately, and so he will see if he can do that for us, and then we'll develop something for beginners, intermediates, and advanced. But I'll tell you, I don't even trade on leverage. I know that I'm not ready for that. And if I were to get ready for it, and that's what I'm going to do during this next downturn, you really need to practice paper trading without real money for at least 6 months. And there are real important strategies to it. Not only do you know how to take good bets, but also how to recognize when the trade is going against you and have proper stop losses so that you get stopped out, but at least it limits how much you lose on a trade instead of losing the whole amount. And so there's a lot of people that are promoting Bybit and some of the other things, and they're fantastic for exceptional traders who sometimes still lose, but they win more than they lose. But those that are just getting into this, that is the greatest way to lose all your funds during the middle of a bull market, and I would hate to see that. I'll just tell you myself, I learned that lesson the hard way, and I lost 1.3 Bitcoin before I realized, nope, I'm not ready for that yet, even though I've done very good on just spot trading, very good. And by then I'd learned a lot of lessons. I thought I was ready for leverage trading, and I was not. I got liquidated really hard one time, and I realized I have a ways to go before then. And I hope all of you realize that too. Don't buy into that, oh, you can do it too. I don't know. I mean, we're all grown-ups. We all get to make our own decisions. This isn't financial advice. You get to make the decision for yourself and your future. You also get to live with those decisions too, right? So if you do decide to try that, don't don't say I didn't warn you. All right. So where are things going to go overall? Some very, very good times ahead from us, but don't be surprised if we see some sideways trading and going down. We've had an euphoric couple of months, and that's often followed by some retracement. In fact, you've been seeing that in Bitcoin. Not that one. So, I mean, Bitcoin's still pretty heavy, and this is the wrong timeline to see it really well. It's still done phenomenally, but the massive gains haven't kept coming like they were, right? I guess we better get off of logarithmic and get this chart to where it's, there we go. Now we can see it's been going down, and this is just exactly what you call a pullback, right? So if we were to draw this out, I bet you it's hit the fib retracement number we were just talking about. Well, it went past it, but it's right around that number. Okay, so it broke past the 38.2 and has come up, and it's actually sitting right close to that now, a little bit below that. So the good news for us with Bitcoin, now that we're off the logarithmic scale, is we can get a little bit more accurate line here, is that we're pretty close to this trend line. I don't expect it'll break this trend line. And so at some point, Bitcoin, even if it keeps trading sideways or it comes down to here, likely it'll bounce off it and continue the bull run. And then what will happen is a lot of people will throw their money from alts. You'll see a lot of the money come out of alts and into Bitcoin while it takes off. And then people usually chase it. Bitcoin will be at like 70,000, and then kind of the new people tend to then throw their money from altcoins into Bitcoin because their altcoins seem like they're doing nothing, which is actually the time that smart buyers are buying altcoins. It's when they seem like they're doing nothing. See, when Bitcoin seems like it's doing nothing, guess what's really happening? The rubber band's been getting pulled farther and farther back so that then it can be released, and boom, you see it take off just like this. So what's happening now? The rubber band's getting pulled back, pulled back, pulled back. So, I mean, if you were to sell your altcoins into Bitcoin, if you're trying to swing trade, it's getting to be an attractive time because this rubber band's getting pulled back and pulled back and pulled back. I mean, look at this. Cardano, do you see the rubber band getting pulled back here? No, it's doing its swoom thing, right? And that rubber band being pulled back will happen to it. It happened a big chunk here, and it was hard to be patient while everything else was doing well because it hit some highs here in July, and it didn't surpass that till December. You realize, and even January, you realize that's 5 months. So that kind of thing often happens, and you know, it was a bummer because I was thinking of Sweden trading the Cardano right at that time when it hit the 17 cents, and I was like, oh my gosh, I should sell some of this. And then I didn't, and then it took forever just to get back to that point. If I rolled it into Bitcoin, I would have made a fortune. However, I knew with Cardano I liked it a little bit too much, so I get emotional about it, and I didn't want to be making an emotional decision. In this case, it would have been exactly the right decision. However, with Cardano, with the dataless wallet, you can just leave it staked and let it sit there and grow for you, and that's what I do. I don't try to swing trade this one. If I were trying to swing trade it, this would be a point that I would probably doing a take profit zone and probably rolling it straight into Bitcoin. As you see with Bitcoin, it's actually down like this, and the rubber band is getting pulled back. Now, it may continue down for a little bit while longer, and Cardano may continue strong. Maybe even, I mean, the Coinbase announcement would make this huge, and it would take it to $3, or that's my guess. And then you would see a really good time to possibly take some profits. I did want to pull up an indicator that really helps you understand what things are looking like, and it's called the Relative Strength Index. And I do try to keep an eye on this if I am planning on swing trading. If you notice how high the RSI is, and right here it's not extremely high, but it's right at about 80%. And in the past, when it's hit this is when it tends to trade sideways. In fact, you see how it came up, came up, came up. Now, if you're always trying to sell, if you're using just this as an indicator, you don't know because it came up pretty high here. And all that did mean is it then traded sideways for a while, hit up that level again, well, as it traded sideways for a while, and then when it came down, it jumped up quite a bit, and then it traded sideways again, and then, so you can't just look at the RSI. The RSI does tell you, it's the relative strength index, and it tells you the relative strength of buyers versus sellers. And so the buyers are losing momentum here, and this is going to start swinging towards the sellers, and so you'll start to see this come down. And so it is losing some strength here and likely will come down, trade sideways for a bit, and then maybe go up. Now, a Coinbase announcement will do a lot to change that, so some of the reason I don't trade this. Another reason is when Charles Hoskinson was building the foundations of this, he set it up in such a way that it seemed like everything was taking forever, and because he was taking time to put all the right plans together so that when he erected this huge, gigantic building, a lot of things could go up very quickly and in sequence, and you're seeing a lot of the fruits of that, a lot of that patience. In other words, that rubber band got pulled really, really, really far back, and a lot of people sold because they're just not patient. And it was hard. You know, people were always saying to Charles Hoskinson back here, win Shelley. Oh my gosh, it's never going to happen. Win Shelley, win Shelley. I think Shelley actually happened some point around here. And then it went all the way up to 17 cents because people were like, oh my gosh, finally happened. And then there just it had climbed too much too fast and traded sideways. Well, I hope all of this made good sense to you. I've, just wanted to give you some of my insights that I've learned through some painful lessons. I know many of you are new, although not all of you, and some of you have been trading this market a lot longer than I have and been following this. And what I wanted to share is, so your first time in the cycle, you'll make some mistakes, and sometimes if you at least sell before things reverse completely, a lot of times you can make some massive gains, and it prepares you better for the following cycle, which is usually what can bring you life-changing money as long as you continue to educate yourself and improve your ability to invest. Because the investor mindset is the biggest part of making it rich. And so really to have wealth, it's not a factor of being lucky. It's a factor of being able to recognize a good opportunity as well as recognize a good time to sell. Because even if you become good at recognizing a good opportunity, but you don't sell at the right time, then you get destroyed by it retracing, right? And so there's a few factors that go into the mental toughness it takes to be successful in investing. And those same principles are true whether it's stocks, whether it's real estate, whether it's cryptocurrency. So I just want to take some time to chat with you today about that. Let me know if you find this helpful. If so, I'll talk more about this, and if not, that's okay too, but just these thoughts were going through my mind. I was thinking it's 2021. It's going to be a phenomenal year if the patterns repeat from what they did before. I'm going to take a lot of profits, if not all my profits, late this year or early next year, depending on how the patterns play out. And that'll set me up really good for, say, 2023 will be some fantastic buying opportunities when everything's on sale compared to what it will be at the end of this year. And so, and that can lead to some utter life-changing wealth for many people. So hopefully your first cycle goes well if this is your first. If it's not if this is your second, hopefully this cycle you make some life-changing wealth and it goes absolutely phenomenal for you. And if this is your first cycle, I wish you the best of luck. Created this channel for a lot of reasons, but one of them just to share with you some insights, because I hope this goes as well as possible for each of you. So thank you for joining me. Again, this isn't financial advice. I'm just an investor myself, sharing my thoughts and my thought processes. Every one of us gets to make the decisions for ourselves and put our big boy pants on and our big girl pants on and get up there and take responsibility for our massive wins and also our massive losses. All right, guys, I do want to thank you, and I want to tell you a little bit more about why I started this channel, so hope you like it. Thank you for joining the Crypto Rain channel. I'm your host, Jay Murph, and if you haven't already, would you hit the like button? Also, if you subscribe to the channel and join us Rainmakers, Well, the goal of this year is to make this year completely rain on all of us. And we're going to do that by having on some of the best guests and some of the best project teams come on and answer our questions as we get the best information so that this year will be phenomenal for all of us. See you soon.